Welcome, dear dreamers, to a quiet evening where we journey far from the familiar paths and into the forgotten village of Eldenbrook. Tonight, allow your mind to drift as we follow Alistair. Welcome, dear dreamers, to a quiet evening where we journey far from the familiar paths and into the forgotten village of Eldenbrook. Tonight, allow your mind to drift as we follow Alistair, a curious traveller, drawn into the mysteries of an ancient temple under the soft glow of the moon. Take a deep breath, settle in, and let the story guide you through a world of hidden paths and whispers lost to time. Close your eyes and allow each word to lull you into a place of dreams and wonder. Now, let the journey begin. And drift gently towards sleep. In a forgotten village, veiled by the thick arms of the forest and the breath of mist, there was a traveller named Alistair. He was not like the others, those who would rise at dawn and retreat before nightfall. The village folk whispered of his peculiarities, his relentless hunger for the unknown, his solitary ventures into places even the oldest dared not tread. Alistair was a seeker of things lost to time, a wanderer among ruins that sang of forgotten kings and tales buried beneath the dust. It was on one such night, when the moon was swollen and bright, that Alistair's path took him far beyond the boundaries of the village. There, nestled in a hollow, cradled by the jagged peaks of the hills, stood the ruins of a temple. Time had stripped it bare, leaving only the skeleton of its former grandeur, a crumbling monument to something long erased from memory. The air hung thick with an unsettling stillness, as though even the wind refused to disturb this place. Yet, the moon, in all its pale glory, cast a beam through the cracks in the stone, illuminating a single pedestal at the heart of the ruin. There, bathed in silver light, rested a sphere, small, translucent, pulsing softly, as though it held within it the heartbeat of the night itself. Alistair approached, and the closer he drew, the more the world seemed to shrink, focusing only on the orb before him. His breath hitched as he reached out, fingers trembling with both awe and hesitation. The surface of the orb was cool against his skin, like touching the calm surface of a forgotten lake under the moon. As his hand closed around it, a whisper, soft yet ancient, breathed into his mind, as if carried on the wind from some faraway place. The path is seen only by those who walk beneath the moon's gaze. Alistair staggered back, the voice echoing through his thoughts, though no mouth had spoken the words. The orb pulsed, its light growing, and in that moment, he understood that what he held was no mere trinket. This was the Moonlit Orb of Illumination, a relic of old, older than the ruins, older than the village, older perhaps than the stars themselves. It was said to reveal hidden paths when kissed by the moonlight, guiding those who dared venture into places unseen by mortal eyes. A shiver ran down his spine, though not from cold, but from the gravity of what he now possessed. The orb, still pulsing faintly, now seemed a living thing in his hand, warm with purpose. It whispered once more, though this time the voice was less distant, more familiar, almost as though the words were his own. "You are chosen, Alistair. The path is yours to walk." He knew not what lay ahead, only that his path was no longer his alone. The orb would guide him. Through what realms, what dangers he could not yet imagine. But the promise was there, written in the light that flickered between his fingers. Under the moon, the world would reveal itself in ways it never had before. Alistair turned his gaze to the sky, where the moon loomed full and bright, watching like a sentinel over the land. He could almost feel its pull, drawing him forward into the night, into the unknown. With the orb in hand, he left the temple ruins behind, stepping into the shadowed wilderness. As he walked, the familiar paths of the forest shifted, the trees seeming to part and sway in strange patterns. But under the moonlight, the orb hummed with a low, steady glow, and before him appeared a new path, one that had never existed before. It wound through the trees like a ribbon of light, visible only to him, calling him deeper into the heart of the night. The village, the ruins, the world as he knew it, these were left far behind. In their place was something else, something hidden, something ancient. The orb's soft radiance bathed the ground at his feet, illuminating each step he took. And as the night deepened, the whispers grew louder. The unseen voices of the world around him, speaking of realms beyond the edges of his understanding. Alistair did not turn back. He was a traveller after all, and his journey had only just begun. He followed the light, and the moon followed him. The moon hung low, casting a spectral glow over the dense woods that lay ahead. A place where no one from Alistair's village dared venture. The Whispering Forest. It was said the trees spoke with voices not of this world, luring travelers deeper until they were swallowed whole, their bones hidden beneath the moss-covered earth, their names forgotten by all who once knew them. But Alistair, guided by the Moonlit Orb of Illumination, had no fear. The orb pulsed faintly in his hand, responding to the moon's touch, and before his eyes, a silver path revealed itself. It wound between the trees, snaking deeper into the forest's heart. It was not a path worn by feet, but something older, something known only to the moon and the orb, an ancient way, visible only under its light. The forest pressed in around him, thick with shadows. Trees twisted unnaturally, their branches reaching like gnarled fingers, and the air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and old leaves. The whispers began as soon as he stepped beyond the first tree, a soft murmuring, like the sigh of wind through dry grass. But there was no wind. He walks the path. He follows the light. Does he know what lies ahead? The voices drifted through the air, disembodied, as though the very trees themselves had found breath. Alistair gripped the orb tighter, feeling its warmth pulse against his palm. The silver path beneath his feet shimmered, guiding him forward. And with each step, the whispers grew louder, though their words remained indistinct. A symphony of secrets just beyond his reach. The deeper he went, the more the forest seemed to resist him. The trees closed in, their bark dark as night, their limbs creaking with age. Shadows moved in the corners of his vision, always just out of sight. And then, from the heart of the forest came the laughter, soft, eerie, and mocking. "Turn back, traveler." It was a voice unlike the others, sharper, more distinct. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, yet nowhere in particular. Alistair did not pause. The path remained, shimmering faintly beneath the moon's gaze, and the orb's light grew stronger in response to the growing darkness. But the forest was not finished with him. The trees shifted as he passed, their bark twisting and warping into faces, eyes closed, mouths wide in silent screams. The laughter echoed again, and the faces seemed to writhe with life, their expressions mocking his resolve. The forest devours all. You are no different. Alistair felt a shiver crawl down his spine, but he pressed on, trusting in the orb's light. The path grew narrower, more treacherous, and the air itself seemed to thicken as though the forest was trying to smother him. The laughter turned to whispers once more, growing louder, swirling in a cacophony of voices. Too many to distinguish, too many to silence. It was then, at the heart of the forest, that the path split into a dozen directions, all leading into impenetrable darkness. The orb flickered, casting light on each path, but none revealed an end. They twisted and bent, leading in circles, each one more confusing than the last. And then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, the Keeper of Shadows. It stood tall, its form barely human, cloaked in darkness so deep that even the moonlight seemed to bend around it. Its face was obscured by a hood, and only its eyes, burning like two dying embers, were visible beneath the veil of shadow. You seek to leave the whispering forest. The Keeper's voice was slow, deliberate, like the grinding of ancient stones. But none leave without answering the riddle of the moon. The whispers fell silent, and the forest stilled as if waiting. Alistair raised the orb. Its light shimmered, revealing a faint glow around the Keeper. But it did not banish the shadow. The Keeper extended a hand, long fingers curling toward Alistair as though to pull him into the darkness. Answer, and the path shall reveal itself. Fail, and you will wander the forest forevermore, lost to the whispers of the trees. The riddle hung in the air like a mist, coiling around him. What is it that moves, yet never leaves its place? What is it that grows, yet remains the same? For a moment, the answer eluded him. The trees seemed to lean closer, their whispers barely audible now, urging him to surrender to their endless maze. But the orb in his hand pulsed, and in its light, the answer came to him, whispered by the moon itself. The moon, Alistair said softly, his voice cutting through the silence. It moves across the sky, but remains in the heavens. It changes form, but is ever constant. The Keeper's burning eyes flickered, and the shadows seemed to withdraw slightly. You have spoken true, it said, voice laced with reluctant approval. The path is yours. The forest trembled, and the myriad paths vanished, leaving only one bathed in the soft glow of the orb. The keeper stepped aside, melting into the shadows once more. Alistair, without hesitation, followed the light, leaving the whispers behind. As the moonlit path carried him out of the whispering forest, Alistair knew he had passed the first of many tests. Yet the orb's light flickered, as though warning him that the hardest journeys were still to come. The whispering forest lay far behind Alistair, its haunted trees and elusive whispers fading into the night. Now, before him stretched an endless desert, the shifting sands of Eternia. This wasteland too was shrouded in legend. The desert was said to hold the bones of entire kingdoms, devoured by the dunes that moved like living things. Those who entered Eternia never returned, swallowed by its ever-changing expanse. Yet, Alistair pressed forward. The moonlit orb in his hand pulsed faintly beneath the crescent moon's dim light, its glow weak but unwavering, guiding him to the horizon where the sky kissed the dunes. As he stepped onto the sands, they shifted beneath his feet, moving as if alive, as if watching. The night was cold, but the desert air shimmered with unseen magic. There was no wind, yet the dunes swirled in slow, deliberate patterns, rearranging themselves with each passing second. Alistair knew the danger. Without the orb's light, he would be lost in the desert's ever-changing maze, doomed to wander until the sands buried him as they had so many others. The orb brightened slightly, revealing a narrow path that wound between the shifting dunes. Alistair followed, his steps light, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of the sands beneath him. As he walked, he could feel the desert watching him, its presence heavy, almost sentient. The ground hummed with a low vibration, as though the desert itself was alive, waiting for the slightest misstep. Hours passed, or perhaps only minutes. It was impossible to tell in this place, where time seemed to stretch and bend. The moon hung low, and the sky above was a deep, velvety black, dotted with stars that flickered like forgotten memories. The orb pulsed steadily, its light guiding Alistair through the labyrinth of sand. But there was a growing tension in the air, a subtle shifting, as if the desert was preparing for something. And then it came. A low rumbling sound rose from beneath the dunes, a sound like distant thunder or the roar of an ancient beast. The sands began to move faster, swirling in great spirals, and from the heart of the desert a figure emerged, a silhouette against the moonlit sky, towering and formless. It was the mirage of time, the spectral city that appeared only to those who wandered too far, too deep into Eternia. The city shimmered on the horizon, its walls gleaming silver under the moon's light. Yet it was not solid. It flickered as if caught between worlds, as if it existed only in fragments of moments lost to time. Alistair's breath caught. The legend spoke of the mirage of time, a place where the past and present bled into one another, where those who entered were never seen again. The orb pulsed sharply, almost as if warning him, but the path continued forward, leading directly to the mirage. As Alistair neared, the sands began to shift more violently. The ground beneath his feet trembled, and from the dunes rose creatures, figures carved from the very sand itself. They towered above him, their forms indistinct, their faces hollowed masks of shifting grains. These were the time wraiths, guardians of the mirage, cursed to forever protect the city from those who sought its secrets. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their presence was enough, a warning, a challenge. The largest of the wraiths stepped forward, its towering form blocking the path ahead. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, and though its mouth did not move, a voice echoed through the desert air, ancient and commanding. To enter the mirage, you must give what is most precious to you, traveler. The sands of Eternia take all, even that which cannot be seen. Alistair's heart clenched. He knew what the wraith meant. The desert did not trade in gold or treasure. It dealt in memory, in moments that shaped a soul. The orb pulsed, its light dimming as if to reflect the weight of the choice before him. What was most precious to him? He thought of the village, of the years he had spent seeking the unknown, the friends and family he had left behind. But it was none of these that the desert desired. No, it sought something deeper, something tied to his very being. After a moment, Alistair understood. The wraiths wanted a memory, a piece of his past, a fragment of himself. It would be lost forever, taken by the desert to fuel the mirage, but in return, the path forward would be revealed. He closed his eyes, feeling the pull of the decision. A memory rose to the surface, one from his childhood, a day long ago when he had first ventured beyond the village, a day that had ignited his thirst for the unknown. It was a small thing, but it had shaped him, defined him, and now it would be gone. With a steady breath, Alistair held the orb up to the wraiths. Its light flared, then dimmed, and with it, the memory was gone, pulled from him as though it had never been. The wraiths stepped aside, and the path to the mirage of time opened before him. The silver city shimmering, waiting. He felt the loss, a hollow emptiness where the memory had been. But he did not falter. The path was clear, and he stepped forward, deeper into the mirage, deeper into Eternia's secrets. The desert whispered around him, the sands shifting, but the orb's light guided him still. The journey continued. The mirage of time faded behind him, its shimmering silver walls dissolving like mist as Alistair crossed the final dune. Before him now stretched the veiled waters of Solara, a lake so still it seemed to hold the very sky within its depths. It lay like a mirror, reflecting the crescent moon and the cold stars above. But beneath that reflection was something deeper, something hidden. The stories whispered of Solara, the lake that led to another world, a realm beyond the reach of mortal understanding. Its waters were said to be enchanted, veiling truths that only the moon could reveal. It was a threshold, a gateway, but no one knew to where. Those who ventured into Solara never returned unchanged, if they returned at all. Alistair stood at the edge of the lake, the orb in his hand pulsing faintly. Its glow was dimmer here, as though the waters absorbed the light, pulling it into the endless depths. The air was heavy with silence, thick with the weight of the unknown. The moon, too, seemed to watch more closely, its reflection on the water, an unblinking eye, gazing into the heart of the world. He took a step forward, feeling the cool water lap at his boots. It shimmered under the touch of the orb's light, casting faint ripples across the surface. And then, as if in response to his presence, the lake stirred. The water parted, revealing a narrow path that wound beneath its surface, illuminated by the orb's faint glow. Without hesitation, Alistair stepped onto the path, feeling the water close in around him. Though it did not soak his clothes or drag him down, it was as though he walked within the water, yet remained untouched by it. The orb pulsed in his hand, its light casting eerie reflections that danced on the veiled surface above him. The path wound deeper into the lake, and with each step, the air seemed to grow thicker, heavier. Shadows swam just beyond the edges of the light, figures too distant to see clearly, but close enough to send a shiver down his spine. The water was alive with them, these creatures of the deep, their forms half seen through the shifting veil of enchantment that cloaked the lake. As he walked, a voice rose from the water, soft and melodic, like the song of a forgotten river. It echoed through the depths, weaving between the ripples, pulling at his mind. Traveler, why do you seek the hidden path? What is it you hope to find beyond the veil? The question hung in the air, lingering like mist. Alistair said nothing, but the orb pulsed in his hand as if answering for him. The path beneath his feet twisted, spiraling downward into the heart of the lake. The water grew darker, and the reflections of the moon and stars above seemed further away, dimming with each step he took. At the deepest point, the path opened into a vast underwater cavern, its walls lined with shimmering stones that glowed faintly, like stars scattered across the night sky. In the center of the cavern, rising from the water like an ancient monolith, stood the Gate of Solara. The gate was made of pale stone, veined with silver, and carved with symbols that shifted and changed even as Alistair's eyes tried to follow them. It thrummed with an ancient magic, a power that pulsed in time with the orb's light. But guarding the gate, coiled around it like a sentinel, was the water serpent. An ancient being, older than the lake itself. The serpent's eyes, glowing like two molten orbs, fixed on Alistair as he approached. Its scales shimmered in the faint light, reflecting every shade of the night. And its voice, when it spoke, was like the rush of water over stones cold and ancient. You seek to pass through the Gate of Solara, the serpent said, its voice slow and deliberate, reverberating through the cavern. But only those who walk with a heart free of shadows may enter. The lake reveals all truths, traveler. What lies hidden within you? Alistair felt a weight settle on his chest, heavier than the water around him. The serpent's gaze pierced through him, searching for the truth buried deep within his soul. The orb in his hand pulsed, but its light dimmed as if hesitant. The serpent coiled tighter around the gate, its body rippling with ancient power. Step forward, and your heart will be judged. Only those who bear no darkness may pass. Alistair hesitated for the first time since his journey began. He had faced many dangers, creatures of shadow and time, the forest's whispers, the desert's illusions. But this was different. This was a test of his very soul. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his past, the choices he had made, the sacrifices. But the orb pulsed again, this time brighter, its light cutting through the uncertainty. He stepped forward into the serpent's gaze. For a long moment, the serpent was still, its molten eyes locked on his. The air in the cavern seemed to freeze, the water holding its breath. And then slowly the serpent uncoiled from the gate, its eyes never leaving Alistair. You walk with a heart unburdened by shadows, the serpent said, its voice softer now, almost reverent. The gate is yours to pass. The stone of the gate shimmered, and as Alistair approached, it opened silently, revealing a passage that led upward through the water toward a light that flickered faintly in the distance. He stepped through the gate, and as the waters of Solara closed behind him, he felt the weight of the lake lift from his shoulders. The path ahead was clear, but the journey was far from over. The final test awaited him in the realm beyond time, the hidden realm of Eternitas. Alistair emerged from the veiled waters of Solara, his heart still steady, his breath measured. The gate behind him sealed with a soft, ethereal sigh, leaving no trace of the path he had taken. Before him now lay the most enigmatic of realms, the hidden realm of Eternitas, a place beyond time, where all forgotten things lingered, where ancient paths converged under the watchful eyes of the stars. The landscape here defied the boundaries of the world he knew. It was not sky, nor land, nor sea, but something in between. An expanse of endless starlit mist stretching into infinity. Floating islands, like pieces of broken worlds, drifted in and out of view, their jagged edges shimmering faintly in the half-light. The ground beneath his feet was solid, yet it did not seem like earth. It pulsed softly, as if alive with the memory of every step taken before him. Alistair held the moonlit orb close, its glow dim now, flickering like a candle on the verge of extinction. The realm seemed to feed on its light, drawing it into the vast, empty void. The orb pulsed weakly, guiding him toward the center of Eternitas, where the last of his journey waited. With each step, the whispers returned, different now, ancient and slow, like the voices of long-forgotten gods. They spoke of paths never traveled, of choices unmade, of lives that flickered like dying stars and then vanished. Alistair listened, but did not falter. The path before him was still faintly visible, a thin ribbon of moonlight woven through the mists. As he walked, a great shadow began to form in the distance, towering over the realm like a mountain, though it moved as if it were alive. Closer and closer it loomed, and Alistair realized it was not a mountain, but an ancient tree. A tree unlike any he had ever seen. This was the Tree of Eternitas, its roots entwined with the fabric of the realm itself. It was colossal, its branches stretching upward into the endless void, shimmering with the glow of distant stars. Its bark was dark as night, marked with symbols that glowed faintly, as if they too held the light of the moon. From its branches hung orbs, countless orbs, like the one Alistair carried, each one a forgotten path, a story never completed, a truth never revealed. The orb in his hand flickered again, growing weaker. It had led him here, to this final place, but now its purpose was fading. Alistair felt a deep sadness wash over him, for he knew what must come next. At the base of the tree stood an altar of stone, worn smooth by the passage of eons. It was here, in this place of endings, that the final truth of the moonlit orb would be revealed. Alistair approached the altar, feeling the weight of his journey press down upon him. The forest's whispers, the desert's illusions, the lake's veiled secrets, all had led him here, to this moment. As he placed the orb upon the altar, the light within it flared briefly, casting a silvery glow over the ancient stones. The orb pulsed one last time, and then, with a soft, almost imperceptible sigh, its light faded entirely, leaving only the dim starlight of the tree to guide him. A voice, older than the earth itself, whispered through the mists. You have walked the hidden paths, Alistair. You have followed the moon's light to the edge of the world. But this journey was never meant to bring you riches or glory or even answers. It was meant to bring you to the truth, your truth. The voice seemed to come from the tree itself, resonating through its branches, vibrating in the air like the hum of ancient magic. To walk the hidden paths is to seek the unknown, but what is unknown is not always meant to be known. You have followed the moon's light, but now you must release it. The paths are not yours to keep. Alistair stood still, the weight of the words heavy in his chest. He had come so far, endured so much, and yet here, at the end, there was no prize, no grand revelation, only this, a quiet truth, that the journey itself was the purpose, that the orb was never meant to be his forever. With a deep breath, Alistair stepped back from the altar. The orb, now dark, began to dissolve into the air, its form breaking apart like mist under the first light of dawn. The tree seemed to drink in the remnants of its light, the symbols on its bark glowing brighter as the orb faded away. And then, as the last of the light